Doo-doo-doo. I am gonna tweet this out, but whoever's watching on YouTube, streaming my exploration of Defer.run today. We are good. All right. Okay, so the reason I'm interested in this, I saw this on Hacker News today. The reason I'm interested in this is because I worked at Temporal, which does background jobs for multiple languages, and I did have some pain points with it. And I also was effectively the PM for the Node.js SDK or TypeScript SDK that we launched. And this is looking like a comparable solution. So I figured I should give my honest review and first impressions, actually try to build something with it. And yeah, just capture any issues that I might have with this product. Usually I would be playing some music in the background, but I've decided to mic myself up today and actually just talk more. I don't know if I can talk while thinking, talk while typing, so excuses if I run into any issue there, but I just figure I've been trying to get more stuff. Jim, it looks like we have our first question. Hey, Jim. Hey, Sean. Can you also explain in more details why background jobs exist and what is possible that was not possible without them? So this took me like way too long, like 4 to 5 years to figure out like why this is a big deal and why it's actually a problem that most developers or many developers, especially JavaScript developers, do not have this in their toolkit. And when you do this, when you don't have this in your toolkit, you have problems shipping valuable software, or you start to reinvent the wheel without knowing that there are other solutions out there just because you never took this seriously. Okay, so why do background jobs exist? Background jobs exist because you often need things to happen in a separate process than your regular program loop. And you often need them to persist throughout any system failure. And you need them to be scheduled and all that good stuff that happens outside of the typical request response loop. So a typical request response. I feel like I should just illustrate this. I'm going to try with TL Draw today. And maybe we can... so let's see. So a typical request response loop, honestly, I'm not sure like I'm going to do much. Oh. Can you still see me? Sorry, my screen just died for some reason. Okay, I'm gonna assume that you can still see me, even though I'm like not 100% confident that this is showing. So okay, so a typical request response loop will look something like, oh, this is not what I was looking for. Where's the color wheel? How do I set my colors? Oh, there we go. All right. Maybe if I don't want dots, I'm just gonna do that. Okay, so put this here, request. I'm feeling a little bit silly. Maybe I'm like overproducing this response. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So I'm gonna hard stop myself from doing this because I don't think that this is a very good way of explaining this. My main screen has died, so I actually cannot tell if let's see, please. I need to mirror this display setting. Okay, there we go. Sorry, my main laptop screen died. Okay, so I feel like the best way to do this maybe would be a simpler text-based thing, right? Like so the typical client server architecture would be request response, and then but really sometimes you want request and then um, acknowledgement. Simple, complex. And then Jim says, we see everything all good, so thank you. And then you know, maybe we'll say something like instead of response, we'll say action. So web, like, so let's just call this simple and then complex. And a lot of programming paradigms, UI paradigms in particular, but then also web server paradigms, CLI paradigms, any form of basic human-computer interaction is very much have a work loop that's infinitely running, and then wait for human requests. When the request comes in, the machine processes it synchronously and then responds in kind. So there are a number of problems with this. One, if you have a bunch of requests coming in all at once, you can actually get denial of service or system overload, right? Because you can only handle so many responses in flight at the same time if you're doing it synchronously. So really what you should be doing is you should acknowledge a request coming in, save it somewhere, have it run in the background, and then respond whenever it's ready, whether it takes a second or it takes 10 days. That is a much more robust and reliable way to do things because even if you fail in the process, you can restart back up and then continue where you picked up. Or if you get a sudden flood of requests, you can just automatically buffer them because you're just acknowledging them. You automatically buffer them inside of your persistence and then work through them when the load is a bit lower. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to essentially switch paradigms from request response into to request acknowledgement and then action. The other okay, so the more obvious name for this pattern is a sort of synchronous request response or asynchronous request acknowledgement, something like that. The other thing that I'm very fond of telling people about is that essentially once you study enough, trying to look for my presentations. Once you study enough software companies, you realize that substantially all of the money-making behaviors of any system comes in the form of async work and not the simple work. So this is where I pull up my temporal pitch deck and sort of try to let's see. I don't know if I have any other. Okay, one of these presentations will have the slide I'm looking for. Okay. So let's just talk about a system like Uber. For a single ride, you might hit a dozen microservices, right? Like you need to search, you need to price, you need to match driver with rider, and then you need to pick them up, drop them off, rate, tip, payment, email. All of this is a single journey that happens over a long period of time. You're not going to keep this in process running. You probably want to kick off like asynchronous processes as well. I'm not sure this is the best example. Let me, okay. So that is Uber. Checker, Checker is another key customer or like motivating use case. And this involves basically sending an API call and then running real life in-person processes to check people's backgrounds for employment, right? So sometimes you might be pulling criminal records. Sometimes you might be just pinging in APIs. You might have to like essentially fan out to a bunch of different things and then wait for those responses, which might take multiple days before you come back and return whether someone has been approved and passed in background employment check. And so imagine you coding up the cron jobs individually to check all these things if you only worked on a synchronous request response paradigm. Netflix does this for video and media processing, like uploading one single video and then processing it to create a bunch of different formats for mobile and for different high quality versions. Coinbase could use it for Coinbase does use it for cryptocurrency transactions where one side of the transaction happens much faster than the other. The typical Bitcoin transaction takes 6 confirmations, which takes like something like an hour to do. And Stripe just uses it as a general workflow engine. I don't actually know what they particularly use it for, but basically, substantially, it's all the sort of core loop services. And the intuition for why, actually, it's very simple. The core reason why we derive value from computing is automation, right? When they can take away work that is done by a human, whether it's a human's attention or human labor, or just the human fallibility of not being able to juggle multiple things at once. Computers are very good at that. And so if you have a framework of background jobs that is fault tolerant, that is reliable, well tested, and you didn't have to roll this yourself, then you're able to shift more work to the computer to run asynchronously in the background, and that automates more human labor. Even when I say automation, I really mean every single possible form of automation, including staring at a spreadsheet, waiting for something to update, and then doing something about it. Right? It's like anything with the if this then that format is ripe for automation. So hopefully that gives you some idea of how generally I view this. It's definitely not, hey, sometimes I need like a sidekick, like background jobs. I definitely have grown in my estimation of the importance of background jobs since I first came across Sidekick, which was the Rails background jobs system. I feel like when people talk about background jobs and job processing, they're like, oh, only if I have some heavy media processing load, then I will use this. The only reason people subconsciously identify background jobs with media processing and very slow jobs is because they don't have a good view of the value of software and how much a background job framework or a workflow framework like Defer, like Temporal, they don't have any idea of how much value you can have and how much you can save yourself from coding asynchronous stuff if you just use a framework like this, and that it contributes to business value as well. Okay, I feel like I rambled a little bit. Jim says, "Cool, interesting to see." Yeah, I'm sorry, I rambled a little bit. This is all unprepared. It's actually 1:30 a.m. my time, but I don't know. I had some time. I felt like doing this. I have tea with me, and I figured I would take half an hour to maybe 45 minutes to just go through these docs and record what I think. I'm sure the founders of this company, and they just launched Hacker News 14 hours ago. I'm sure the founders of this company would appreciate an ex-Temporal employee giving honest feedback. Cool. All right. I definitely was. So I'm not like completely fresh to this. I have looked at the landing page, which is why I decided that this is good enough for me to actually do some form of live stream, because I thought this was a very well executed landing page. The things that I liked all came down to here. So you're able to define background function easily with retries and backoff attempts. And again, like that's another thing that you get with this thing, which is when you have the request response format and you sort of code things naively, a simple error will typically cause an error for the whole request. And there's not typically like a retry mechanics with exponential backoff. So basically, whenever you have an API that calls to external APIs, which is a lot of the times, you're crossing unreliable network boundaries that can fail for whatever reason, connectivity, the other side having rate limits or whatever, what have you. You essentially need a system that just automatically declaratively builds in attempts and retries, so that you don't have to deal with this at all times. It'll be a huge mess to handle this every single time. Fun fact: I used to work at AWS, and the classic design pattern that AWS recommends for doing this is using a bunch of SQS queues. So that's one SQS queue, two SQS queue, three SQS queues in AWS Lambda, and then there's there's some statefulness in this application. And imagine if you do this for every single outbound API call that you make, just as a production-ready requirement of making your application a little bit more resilient to network failures. Then you have a system like this that is gold for AWS people, but really way overcomplicated and very hard to think about and version control and get right. Okay. So I like that. I like that you can also control concurrency. This is all good. But this is exactly the same as Netlify's background jobs API. And then Vercel also has cron jobs of Vercel. There you go. So, wow, no code samples. Fantastic. Well done, Netlify. Schedule functions, maybe. So essentially something like this. They do not have the backup, the retries and backoffs. So that's a plus point for these guys. Mostly just because Netlify is not very good at doing anything anymore, which is very sad. Vercel has cron jobs, and that's all they have. So essentially, this is already right off the bat. The first example is way more advanced and serious than these two kind of clownish attempts at adding a little bit of scheduling to serverless functions. So that's really good. And let's move on to the next example. The second is enqueuing. I kind of don't like, there's someone in Hacker News comments that had also had a problem with this await syntax, right? See, so I think it's a little bit confusing because essentially this is a non-blocking await. Even though await semantically is supposed to block, this is a non-blocking await. It just waits for an acknowledgement rather than waits for the job to be done, right? So it's just an acknowledgement, not waiting. A typical await might span this, but this await only does this. Whatever, it's minor and you just have to get over it. I don't think it's a deal breaker at all. So one problem with this is, what if you do want to block, right? Like you should be able to specify, hey, block until first response or block until the final response, whatever that is. And there's no syntax here, so I already foresee this is going to be my first problem with defer, but still this is worthwhile. And then delay. So this is essentially sleep. We have this in the temporal API. And of course, this is a legacy documentation because there's one docs guy, and I will refrain from commenting. So this is the equivalent of sleep that we have here. It's a durable sleep that you can say sleep for 1 hour or 3 months. It doesn't really matter. So essentially, it executes the function until here, and then it creates a delayed version of this API, and then waits for this function. Again, I don't know that this is actually done well because if this API is exactly the same as an enqueue, it's not as useful as a full function. But I have high hopes. We'll see if I can block until the actual completion of the thing, which makes this actually a long running function rather than a short running function. Crons are included. This is simple enough. Not much needed to explain. Workflows is plain code. Yeah, being able to apply recursion and calling functions from other functions is very good. So I was decently impressed by this already, and at that point I decided to live stream this. I like that they have a visually appealing dashboard, which is super useful to just see the overall health of the system. This is something that we took way too long to build. And get notified on Slack, which is really good. Different environments. Yeah, it's very, very thoughtfully and well done. Okay, so I think I'm supposed to sign up at some point. The contrast is very low. Whoever's writing the docs, I do not encourage that. My preferred framework is FeltKit. These guys seem to have retries for Next.js. I'm not sure they're exactly different, but I'm just going to go with FeltKit and we'll see what happens there. Okay, so this is already asking us to jump into here. What I'm going to do is it seems to want us to sign into the Defer dashboard. So I'm going to sign into Defer dashboard. Okay. Set up application. Sure. By the way, I can't, because I don't have my second screen up now, I can't see if you're making any comments, but I will check it back in a bit. It's trying to, okay, so it wants me to set up a repo, but I don't have a repo yet. So I guess I will just hit the docs. Create a project. Okay, there we go. So let's say try defer. Okay. Skeleton project, JS doc, ESLint, prettier. Okay, cd try defer. Okay, and then install it. Checking the comments in case there are any. Could you remove the chat message? Hey, Lawrence, sorry about that. Lawrence says, do you know anyone other than Temporal offering hosted Temporal? Yes, I think there was someone like a month ago doing that, and that guy was planning to do that for a while. Yeah. Yeah, I can't find it. I'll have to search the past year. IWF. Yeah, this guy. So he's built his thing on top of Temporal. Yeah. Okay. Well, it looks like no. This is a layer on top of Temporal. It's not hosted Temporal. Ideally, Temporal Cloud should be hosted Temporal, but it's been 3 years and it's not publicly available yet. So that's all I can say. So much shade. So much shade. Okay. So all right. I have installed everything. I'm going to make sure I get in it. I like to use the GitHub repo, GitHub CLI. I defer. Okay, sure. Oh, fuck. Sure. GitHub CLI is not the best. Yeah, it's, there'll be things I do differently. Okay. So now this works, and we have everything initialized. I'm going to close out of the other stuff, and then go back to the docs. Fucking docs. Okay. I hate when they haven't really designed their application with the getting started experience in mind, which is kind of my job, but still. Okay, so here goes. All right, checking back in on the comments. VS Code, I usually do Command-Shift-P and then publish to GitHub. Yeah, that probably makes sense. Let's see if Command-Shift publish to GitHub. Publish. Sign into GitHub. Yeah, I mean I've linked it now, so whatever. But that's a nice nice trick. Okay. All right. Okay, so so let's keep following the docs and see what's up. So it creates you want me to create a defer folder, okay? And then you want me to write a background function. You want me to start with a hello world demo function. There's good places I need to start. So my favorite trick in file creation here, you can specify the folder and the file. Great. Assumes TypeScript, which maybe I don't think I have it set up. So I can try to strip out the types if that is a problem. Okay. Call my background function. So source routes plus server.ts. Okay. Copy, paste. And this expects. Why is there a $sign there? I think it works. Okay. Okay. Is it enough to just put it as a plus server.ts in the main route? I think I have to deprecate this thing. Okay. So it just has a server. So this does not serve any HTML. It just serves a string OK, and then it awaits hello world. So let's commit this. Add hello world. Okay. Then I need to add a defer token. Okay, so I think this is where I refresh my application, load my GitHub repos, try defer. There we go. Main production environment variables. Why would I want to add special environment variables here? Interesting. Okay, fine. So this is meant to essentially sideload alongside of your Netlify or Vercel application. All right, let's see if I can find my key. Nice little token over there. Where do I use this? Nice. Ensure that your application has a successful build. Go to my defer application. Does it have a successful build? There's no build yet. Well, all right, guys, this is kind of dumb. There's no build, so what do? I can't trigger a build. Ah, there you go. Okay, all right, starting build process now, which is good. Could you tell me an ETA? So I haven't set up my main project in TypeScript, but I've just left everything in TypeScript. It seems like they're just going to happily build my code anyway, which is not the most intuitive thing. You should probably share your TypeScript config with the main project, or at least give an option for doing so. Yeah, waiting for this install without knowing what's happening, without knowing how much time has elapsed, doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. Ah, there we go. All right. Failed to compile TypeScript files, get our help. So what is the failure? Host.unrecoverable file diagnostic. Okay, so it looks like I don't have my problem is I haven't set the project's not for TypeScript, and that is giving some issues. So what I would do here, I think we need to kind of fix this for TypeScript. Or can we just move off of TypeScript? This I'm going to make this JS. Okay, no more TypeScript for you. JS again. TypeScript as well. All right. No TypeScript. Checking the comments section. You guys are doing fine. All right. So let's look for another build or rebuild. Where's my builds? Okay. Yeah, this is the one I manually called, and then this is the one I automatically triggered. I don't know why they have different numbers. These numbers don't seem super intuitive to me. This one failed. Why? I didn't require TypeScript anymore. Okay, so it looks like that that way of trying to back into opting out of TypeScript, because I no longer have any TypeScript here. That way of opting into TypeScript didn't work, so I'm just gonna undo that. And then try to install TypeScript on this machine. Or you know, what I would probably do better is create a new project, skeleton that uses TypeScript, and now I'll just port the whole thing over. Right, and then throw away this one. This is super lazy of me, but I think it makes sense. Delete this. Okay, I think that worked. And then the final step is to kill this project, and this one up, and link. Okay. Phoenix. Now this is a TypeScript project and the entire way through, and hopefully they work together. But obviously that was a little bit rough in terms of onboarding experience for the Defer people who are probably watching. So let us go back to the build. Cannot detect the package manager. What the? Get your help. What is this? Is this chat? What does mean? We're not online, of course. All right, well, that was not helpful at all. I think I checked everything in, right? Let us check the code base to make sure everything was checked in. Okay, this is now a TypeScript project. Okay, there is a package JSON. Yeah, everything should work. Okay, well, that was very short because this thing doesn't work. Arguably, I could make another project if I was just being generous, but you know, any reasonable person trying this, this would be a reasonable place to stop and conclude that they are not ready for adoption. There's no build yet because so you know, whenever you do asynchronous work like this, you do need to, like, there should be a build. You know, there should be some indication of like your first initial use. Probably what's happening here is they're kicking off a build, but they just haven't updated this UI yet, and I have to kind of refresh or wait or click the stupid update button, and then it starts the build process, which is not intuitive, and it keeps running into this issue, which is completely opaque to me, because there is, of course, a package manager involved. So this is, I'm sorry, this is not going to be a good live stream. I'll probably make this video private because I don't think it's a good showing for the Defer guys. So I cannot make this work. Doesn't run, and I'm sure whoever's watching and running this is cringing very hard because I have been in your exact shoes. So please don't I don't judge you. It's just very sad that it didn't clearly could use a lot more user testing before you launch something, because that is a key first impression. Okay, but let us go through the docs then. Can't really run it. I was very excited. I was very keen on running this. Maybe I should just run Next.js, but at this point, having seen the rawness of the dashboard and the developer experience here, I'm just not bothered. But let's actually see, like, okay, assuming that it all works as advertised, what problems do I have with this, right? So it's probably better viewing content for the live viewers as well. So I really like this a lot. This is very sort of bare minimum retry and concurrency configuration. This is something that we did not have for temporal concurrency configuration, because we just assume maximum concurrency, and then if you overloaded the number of workers, it would just kind of queue it in the background. What else can I show you? Let's talk about the sorry, it's been a year since I touched these docs, so don't remember the exact. Yep, there we go. Okay. So this is how we do it in temporal. Like, you proxy an activity just because, long story, isolation issue. Don't worry about it. Then you set timeouts. You also set number of maximum attempts that you want to retry. This is a little bit more intuitive. Intervals between retries. It looks like I expect there to be more here. I think in the main landing page, Defer.run. Yeah, so you need a back off, but then you also need an interval between the retries. And then if you have special error types, you need to stop retrying as well. I think those are super useful things to have. Timeouts are interesting because sometimes when you're running a job, and things like silently hang, and you need to set a timeout for you to more proactively interrupt something that is hanging, so that you can retry them again. Sometimes you don't get an error. Like, when you're doing long-running work, either you get a failure, at which point you can start retrying, or you do not get a failure and it's just silently failed and sort of gone down on you. In which case you need to rely on a timeout process. So we always encourage people to set a timeout. So they don't seem to have arrived at this conclusion yet, which is going to probably bite them in the ass. Defer, if you're watching, I would recommend setting some kind of timeout policy. Cool. All right. Next thing, delayed background functions. So one thing I don't understand. Okay. Well, before I judge, I'm just going to keep going. Given the following background function, we can defer this. This is good. Here's how you would trigger a delayed execution of import context. Okay. So the thing I would see clarity on here is whether this is an enqueue process, which is what you said here. This awaits is an enqueue. It's not a blocking. It doesn't block until this delayed job is actually completed, which is intuitive to me, right? Like, in any Express.js, Next.js, Svelte serverless context, you want this to start and execute within 30 seconds. You're not going to wait for this to run for an hour, right? And so this is a fundamental limitation of Defer's design compared to temporal, where if you had a temporal function here, it would actually run to here, wait for that 1 hour, and then and sort of go to hibernation during that 1 hour, and then wake up again during the 1 hour, pick up from here, and then continue on to the rest of the function, which gives you like a very nice sort of long-running workflow capability. That's it. I did see other guides, so let's move to other parts of the docs before judging. Cron, not very interesting. Any platform can do this. So let's move on. Background function is calling other background functions. Yeah, this one, Netlify and Vercel, Netlify definitely has. I'm not sure about Vercel. But it's a very simple fan out operation, right? Like call one thing, get all users, call another thing for every single user. One thing I would be keen on seeing here, if Defer was actually working, was I'd be keen on seeing how the dashboard displays all of these sub jobs of a main job. So this is in temporal parlance, this would be what we call parent and child workflows, right? Yeah. So you start child and execute child. And once you have the concept of a parent and child, you can sort of group them in your UI and make it a lot more uh, uh, easy to track what's going on and where. You also, in your dashboard, you want to be able to stop a parent and then that propagates to the children, or you want to be able to disconnect child processes from the main process. So this also, I guess, has a lot of parallels with Unix system processes, where you also have the concept of parent and child and being able to connect them in certain ways. And that was one of my favorite parts of learning asynchronous systems like this. Okay, so those are the 4 features that they have highlighted. I'm going to check for comments. Please feel free to leave comments. Roman says, have you added the defer token environment variable? No, it didn't ask me to. Where was I supposed to add it? What do you want me to add? All right, let's go back to the docs. Roman seems to know something that I don't. All right, let's read the docs slowly and see where it asks me to add some kind of environment variable. Okay, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. I think I made a mistake here with the routes, but okay. Copy my environment variable. So it asked me to set my defer token Vercel. This is my application is not ready for usage. So this is one reason why I do not, because it cannot detect my package manager. Maybe I can rebuild it. Maybe it's a temporary thing. I'm guessing it's not a temporary thing. Yeah, that was a very quick failure. So I think this is fine. I could probably add this inside of Vercel and so on and so forth. But I don't expect it to work because this thing doesn't work. And then I can deploy it. Yeah. Yeah. That's all right. I'm gonna just go through the motion and port environment variable. What am I supposed to do? Defer token. All right, man. Ah, fuck. Oh, Vercel, you shouldn't let me do that. Change. Oh, it did add. Okay, deploy. Yeah, I really love the Vercel design. Very professional, very nicely done. So I'm adding the token. Maybe that changes something. I highly doubt it because this build didn't succeed. So Roman, that's the issue there. Okay, cool. Jim says, appreciate this opportunity to see how an experienced developer works and sometimes struggle with new libraries. Yeah, look, like they just launched. It's definitely not my fault, but I just want to provide feedback because I know that new user feedback is super valuable. And me talking through my process, I'm definitely one of the more like I can talk while I do stuff people that I know, which is useful. What the fuck is this? Oh, I swear a lot as well. Roll up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this looks weird anyway. So it's one of those things in Toolkit where like you want to set up some kind of alias. It's a little bit too fancy for my liking, but it looks like it's not set up here by default. and that is a little bit annoying. Okay, yeah. So this is just roughness with Svelte kit changing, with their docs not very good, their package manager detection not very good. I'm just gonna stop here. I don't think it's gonna be a good use of time to try debugging all these issues. I could if I really wanted to, but I just can't be bothered. Let's just go through the conceptual understanding of Defer, because I still think like if they get this right, they have a real shot of competing with Temporal, which is something like a $1.5 billion company. That is very good for a YC company to come out of and substantially challenge in that way if they got this right. So far, my biggest criticism is the NQ process, which is fine and important and useful, but they also need a way to block and a way to resume execution, which gives that nice developer experience. I feel like I haven't explained this enough, so let me elaborate a little bit more. Oh God, what have these clowns done? Clown. Okay, good. All right, so here is an example long-running workflow, right? Which is a very realistic situation. We're making a subscription plan for like a 36-month phone plan. When a user signs up, send a welcome email, start a free trial. When the trial period expires, start a billing process. If the user cancels, send a trial cancellation email. Inside billing process, this is a loop. Check that you haven't exceeded max billing periods, charge the customer, wait for the next billing period. If canceled, do X. If subscription ended, do Y. At any point in the time in steps 1, 2, and 3, be able to look up and change any of those periods. All of this can be done in a single function, which is the function that I've written here. And it basically goes, start the subscription workflow, start the trial, wait until the trial is canceled, and if the trial is canceled, send an email. But if the trial is completed, go into the billing cycle, and then inside of the billing cycle, you wait until sorry, where is it? You charge the customer, and then enter a for loop, and then wait. If the billing cycle, if the billing or the subscription plan is not canceled, you bill them, and then you can wait until the next waiting period. Where's the wait period? Sorry, I'm a little bit distracted because I'm reading this for the first time. Some of this stuff. Where's the waiting period? Yeah, I haven't seen the waiting period in here. That looks like a mistake, or maybe I'm missing it somewhere. I'm trying to read this very quickly. All right, so yeah, I mean, like you cannot do this kind of workflow, which is very, very helpful, right? Like that is the really nice thing to have. And so that is my main criticism here. But I also did see some more long-running guides. So I'm interested to jump to those. I like that they have like how Defer works, documentation, builds, execution, and limits, which is all very good. But let's look at the use case stuff, because I feel like that is more realistic and maybe would show me some patterns which I haven't thought about or seen before. So this is really good on selling the use case, why you would want something that is like a Defer. Yep, adding it, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. And he's wrapping it with Defer. That's good. Now it's a background function and it doesn't affect the application performance. All right, very good. Import context. Yeah, see, so this is the acknowledge pattern, right? Instead of request and then response with the results, you request and then you acknowledge. Right over here. Okay. So this is good. A very, very simple first use case to show, right? Like, hey, this is how you probably naively implemented it. This is a problem when you start to scale to large issues. Here's how it could be if you move it to a background job. And here's a very simple way of how to do it. no nodes. This is very good. Exactly how I would do it. Okay, next, schedule reminders. Yeah, so they create a nice little function here that's self-contained, and then they're gonna wrap that in a delay. Yeah. Okay. So this is a nice second example. I think that makes sense. So what they're doing here is they're setting a to-do, right, with some kind of reminder, and the reminder is set at that point in time, right? So what's the data schema of this thing? Yeah, reminds question mark date, right? So in this optional date, if you set that, they're going to queue it up down in here with to-do.remind. So this makes a ton of sense, except that you cannot change it in flight. What if you need to update it? This thing's already in flight, right? So what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to return an ID of this job so that you can go update the job in flight. This is another criticism that someone else had. Inside of the Hacker News posts. There you go. This question is about item potency, which is super important. Yeah, someone raised this in the comments. Okay, I can't find it, but someone raised this in the comments, and that's the kind of thing you look for. That you have to think this through and be able to do it. They don't seem like they've got to it yet. I think relatively easy to do because just returning an ID and being able to create, read, update, delete on that kind of stuff. They just need to show that in the docs, which they have failed to do. You also need to, by the way, do it inside of your dashboard, which they have shown no capability of doing as well. So a lot more to build there. All right, that's example 2. Example 3, onboarding workflow. Very, very good one. This is actually probably the top use case at Uber for something like this. So let's go. Application onboarding, tend to compose multiple actions, sending emails that might be spread across multiple steps over time. Fantastic. Yep, this is exactly what we're doing. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, I think the writing is very tight. The documentation is really good. This is something that's impressive. I think you need that culturally in a company to communicate clearly and to speak to real user needs. Running background functions in parallel. Okay. Oh God, I'm a little bit worried how they're going to do this right now. So they do promise.all awaits. Wait for the results. Ooh, okay. Look. This is exactly what I was looking for, right? Defer function dot await, in contrary of defer function, doesn't enqueue them, but also waits for them to be finished. Fantastic. Now the problem is you can't run this in a serverless function because these things will take a while. Okay. Again, no mention of timeouts. That will come to bite someone in the ass as well. Writing a workflow function with defer, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Problem is all settled. Okay. Delay. So I like this. So this is the dot await thing is new. It wasn't obvious from the defer wrapper API that they added dot await thing. They didn't document it at all inside of here, and it's actually very material. So good for them. They've thought this through, but also, you've turned parts of this. Because you're waiting for completion of these functions, therefore this function, the user onboarding function, now this is deferred as well. I think that works. Okay, very good. Yeah, so I was waiting for something like this. I suspected that might be there, but I was looking for this inside of the feature documentation. I didn't see it. But this actually, so once you compose dot await with defer, this means that this whole thing is a long-running function where you can wait for completion of these two things, and then continue on to do other things like delaying for 1 day. So that composition is very nice. Again, this one looks like it's enqueuing and not waiting for completion, but it's fine because it's the last function in this entire thing. Therefore, there's nothing to wait for after that. So that doesn't super matter. Again, ownership of parent and child relationships is important. You also want to return IDs to update them or change them dynamically over time. You need to signal or query things while they're running, and that's a concept that is first class within temporal. All of these can be done by, so that's the sort of signals and queries patterns for anyone reading along. All of these can be done by defer. Nothing fundamentally wrong here. So it's all good. Okay, good. That is the third example. This one is very increased my opinion of defer by a bit. All right, weekly reporting, last one, and then we'll end this little video. All right, any comments so far? Let me just check for the comments. Okay. Okay, so Lauren says, does temporal support Node? I remember reading about custom V8 stuff, but not absolutely sure. Yes, of course it supports Node. Yeah. It sandboxes activities inside of custom V8 stuff, if that's what you're thinking. Sorry, sandboxes workflows inside of custom V8 stuff and runs activities inside of regular Node.js. But yes, effectively it supports Node. Yeah, that's fine. Lauren says, if temporal supports Node, how would sleep be hacked in? Guessing some compiler magic. No compiler magic, just taking control of essentially the V8 VM, I think. I forget the exact library that we use. It's in the dependencies. You know what? Let's go find it, because I'm pretty sure I know where it is. So github.com/temporal IO-SDK TypeScript. We named it. Yep, that's here. And then look at the package JSON. What library do we use? I think we wrote a, yeah, it's not here, because this is a mono repo, which is fun and annoying sometimes. So which one do I want? I want workflow, I think. No, because that's the SDK. So maybe I want common. No, because that is common. I forget what I want. Oh yeah, isolated VM. Okay, temporal.io isolated VM. So this is the library that we use, and I recommend checking it out. We switched to using the VM built-in Node module. So essentially, you need to be able to take over the execution and then fast forward and replay all the events that have happened so far until that point in time in order to resume from sleep, which I think is the question that you're asking. In fact, the temporal conference is called replay because that is such a core mechanic. It is part of the reliability and resilience offering. It causes issues with versioning if you need to change versions, and that causes issues with your event history. We don't have to go into that. Probably Defer will run into issues with that as well. But yeah, this is the blog post to read about if you're interested in sort of the rehydration after sleep. Okay. All right, let's finish out the docs. Okay, this one. Weekly reporting. Let me make sure I've cleared the one for every language SDK, right? No. So the Go and Java SDK do not, and therefore they're less safe. Whereas the Python and TypeScript SDK, I hate these docs. Anyway, Go and Java do not. Python and TypeScript SDK do. It is part of an overall effort to provide more safety to the overall developer experience. I think there's trade-offs for that safety. I don't think safety at all costs is worth pursuing, but it's a reasonable trade-off. Like, it's just different preferences in people. Okay, use case, weekly reporting, introduction, blah, 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 schedule function, weekly, okay, blah, blah. Okay, this is exactly what was shown in the landing page. So I don't think every Monday at 8 a.m. This is very good. I like sort of natural language English type scheduling. Sorry, fine. The schedule background function to your regular function. Okay. Must be named calling the function's name. Should not take arguments. This is lame. Why can't I take arguments? In fact, you should be able to let me inject some context and check like the current date or a number of invocations, stuff like that. This is something that we do for scheduled jobs. Okay, fine. 8 a.m. Get out, use something. Use 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nice. I like these diagrams. Very clear in terms of communication. Monitored. Okay. Yeah, cool. All right, less impressive. I would maybe change the order, and I would definitely try to make a bigger deal out of this one, because I think this one is a real money use case that people definitely pay for and depend on. Okay, so I think that is it. I would definitely want to see more out of the UI. Right now, it seems like a very, very limited monitoring. Let's see if they have timeouts here. No timeouts. Currency controls, which is nice. Retries. Okay, execution results. Yeah. Okay, good. Look, like I think this is, having seen like Bull.js, so some of the competition would be like Bull.js. Another one which was acquired by Netlify, and Netlify acquires scheduled functions. Get the acquired functions. Girl. So these are the two that are equivalents in the JavaScript ecosystem. It feels like this is a nice cloud service that's not open source, but it's potentially very promising for a sort of simple adoption use case. And what else can I compare with curl? Curl it wasn't that complicated. Defer is essentially a superset of Quirrell right now, which is good. And then Bull.js has more, I think, of an admin interface and more features, I think. So you definitely want to just like be aware of the general landscape of these tools and be able to know when you should use them, because I think they're a core part of every developer's toolkit. Like most people are over-indexed on synchronous web hosting and job hosting and performing work, and under-indexed on asynchronous work that is durable, scalable, monitorable, all that good stuff out of the box. And that is a fundamental design pattern that I think everyone, once you're sort of async pilled, then you want to do everything async by default if possible. What else can I say about Bull? Yeah, this sort of dot process and then run this thing. It's useful. Yeah, I would hope that they also implement signals and queries, sort of live updating into interrupts into jobs that makes them a lot more useful. But I think this is a decent first shot, even though my attempt to run it completely failed. So I think, yeah, that's it. I'll wait a few minutes for questions if anyone's watching. I don't expect anyone to watch because it is 2 a.m. Pacific time. So this is like the worst time in the world to live stream anything. Have I checked out Mergence? Thanks, Lawrence. Have I checked out Mergence? YC loves funding these companies. Yes. So I did have a call with the Mergence guy. Was it James Martinez? Yeah. So let's see what I can comment about Mergence. I didn't have a strong impression. Like, I actually tried to talk him out of doing this. This just seems less powerful. For some reason, I was like less interested in this than in Defer, which is why I didn't bother to live stream anything around here. But I mean, James is an impressive fella. I'm sure he's like their stuff. All right, fine. Let's indulge a little bit, right? Let's look at the docs. So first off, is the whole thing open source? Guessing no. All right. Is that the GitHub logo? So they have an SDK and that's it. All right. All right. So this is also not open source. Automatically less interesting. But let's go. All right. Scheduled for, fine. Delay, fine. Retries. Yep. Okay. What? The retries are not configurable? Lame. Yeah, this is lame. Okay. Viewing task history. This is important. The UI ugly as shit, but this is more of a like a debug admin interface than what Defer has shown. I mean, who knows what Defer shows? I couldn't get it to run. So timeouts, good. At least they worry about timeouts. Security, validating signatures, fantastic. This one we didn't even have in temporal. So well done for merchants for figuring this one out, as well as authorization. Fantastic. Yep, very good. ngrok, okay, yeah, whatever. Nobody cares. Schedule, yeah, okay. Request failures. I hate these kind of stub doc things. Authentication errors. Bro, what have you been doing for the last 4 months? Okay, mergent.task create scheduled for create a task. How do you create a task? Okay. So what is the difference between mergent and defer? Defer actually lets you write code. Mergent just schedules API pings because it just pings a webhook, right? Like, does it let you write code? I don't think so. Because then you can just respond to webhook. Ooh. I mean, no, it's not serverless. Like this is, I mean, sorry, I take that back. This isn't a runtime. This isn't. This lets you schedule things, but you essentially need to split them up so much, and everything uses URLs, which is a very indirect way of referring to code. Whereas here, you're actually executing. Sorry, where's my defer docs? Anyway, whereas with defer, you're actually executing and code. Let me double check in case I missed something, because I feel like I might be missing something. Blah blah blah. Using webhooks. Okay. Yeah. So mergent only calls webhooks. That's essentially it. It pings your API at given points in time, and then gives you a request response. Yeah, man. I don't know. Not as powerful. You would have to. I mean, you can kind of. This is just lower level. You can kind of do the same things if you tried hard enough. But why would you, when the sort of workflow type API exists? Yeah, I'm sorry, James, if you're watching. You have a different view of the market than I do, but it's all good. It's important. Cool. All right. That's defer. Okay. Lawrence says, "Are you an SF?" Yes, I'm an SF. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. I think that is it for my quick review of Defer. Clearly, very early stages. They've just launched on Hacker News, and hopefully, this is a good video that gives my first impressions as someone who's worked in this space and wants to see everyone have tooling that they like. You don't have to use temporal, but you have to have thought through the same types of problems and at least have a response for them, or make people aware that you've just decided to consciously trade off some things because they will run into them in production, because all async jobs have the same issues. And that's it. All right. Well, thanks for watching and have a good night. Bye-bye.